Welcome to Spotlight Television. I'm Damon Roberts. Minerals are the foundation of our planet. They help us develop new technologies used in our everyday lives. With growing demand for electronic appliances, cars, and personal equipment, the critical minerals market is expected to grow by 8.1% just in 2023 alone. I'm joined today by Donald Bubar, a revered geologist with over 45 years of experience in mineral exploration and development. He's also the CEO of Avalon Advanced Materials, Inc. that he started in 1995 that trades on the TSX under the symbol AVL and on the OTCQB under AVLNF. Avalon is a Canadian mineral development company specializing in sustainably produced critical minerals for clean technology. Don, welcome to Spotlight Television. How are you today?
Happy to be here.
Well, it's great to have you on. Such an interesting topic for the audience. We haven't done a lot of shows on mineral exploration, so I'm interested to dig in and get to know about you and get to know about your technology and your company. But let me start here. Canada is known now as being a leader in developing critical mineral supply chains that will run defining technologies of this century because of the country's abundant critical mineral resources. So tell me a little bit about Avalon's early history and what part you guys will play in trying to save the planet.
Well, I learned early on from an old friend of mine that there's a lot of potential for defining resources of non-traditional commodities in this country. We have an abundant mineral resource database and lots of variety in the types of minerals that occur in this country. So I first acquired Separation Rapids in our lithium project in 1997. And I was inspired to do that by a guy named Dave Truman, who interested me in it because it contains a relatively rare lithium mineral called petalite that's always been used as a specialty mineral in high-strength glass ceramic products. It's the way that you can introduce lithium into the batch formulation without having any impurities, and it's a high purity lithium aluminum silicate mineral. So I was inspired by him to acquire this new discovery of a petalite resource in northwestern Ontario and look into producing petalite for glass ceramic applications. And at that point in time, I could see the potential with lithium-ion batteries as well, because they had been innovated in Japan not too far before we had acquired that property. And it seemed to me that that would be a good potential application for lithium in our resource as well. I didn't think it would take over 20 years to get here, but our time has finally come to create the full supply chain on lithium battery materials as well.
Yeah, and that's a good lead into, you speak about lithium and how long it's taken to kind of get to where you're at. Now, today, as my understanding is, Avalon has the most advanced lithium project in the Ontario area, having done most of the exploration drilling over, like you said, 20 years. So you really have been a pioneer in this industry. Take me back to the beginning a little bit more. How did this vision start?
Well, when I started Avalon in 1995, there was a very big scandal that happened with a company called Briax that had perpetrated false information on a gold discovery that they had made in Indonesia. And that caused a relaxation in the rules, and it made it very difficult to raise capital for traditional exchange-traded commodities. So that's what inspired me to look at this lithium resource as an opportunity, since it wasn't a gold deposit.
All right, so let's talk about global passenger vehicle sales. We hear a lot about, obviously, the Teslas of the world, and now you're having Ford and GM and other companies get into electric cars. Half the global passenger vehicle sales in 2035 will be electric. And obviously, like I said, major companies like General Motors have planned to entirely phase out internal combustion engines by around the same time. By 2030, production of electric vehicles could be valued at more than $567 billion. And the lithium-ion battery is obviously at the heart of all of this evolution. What opportunities does this create for Canada and companies like Avalon?
Well, it creates a lot of opportunities because there's no shortage of lithium pegmatite resources in Canada. They occur basically right across the whole country, and obviously different sizes. But I've been trying to educate people that size doesn't really matter. It's all about creating the midstream processing capacity that can process the minerals to make the derivative product, lithium hydroxide or carbonate, that's needed in the battery applications. So that's our vision now, is to take the lead on getting the midstream processing capacity established. And we want to do it in a city in northwestern Ontario called Thunder Bay, that's right on Lake Superior, and it's the transportation hub of northwestern Ontario, and create basically a regional processing facility that can accept concentrates from other aspiring new producers in the region. Because as I said before, there's no shortage of lithium pegmatites. There are hundreds of them in northwestern Ontario, and different mineralogy, but we'll design it to accommodate various forms of the lithium minerals and be able to process them to produce lithium hydroxide, which seems to be the form of lithium battery material that's in the most demand now. So it's a great opportunity for the whole country to take advantage of our wealth in lithium pegmatite resources, and hopefully there'll be others that will be inspired to create the midstream processing capacity as well.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Do you have an opinion on the timelines that we hear some of these car companies? I know this is a little off topic of what we're here to talk about, but I am interested in someone like you who's on the inside, who's dealing with this all the time. When you hear somebody like GM or Ford are saying they're going to entirely phase out combustion engines around the same time, like 2035. Does that timeline make sense to you, given some of the issues that we see with electrical grids, at least here in the U.S., people talking about moving all of these cars to electric? Is that a timeline do you think is feasible for that kind of thing to happen?
I think it's probably not, because you got to create a lot of infrastructure to allow vehicles to get recharged wherever they go. And in Canada, we're such a big country and not very well populated, as is the case in the US. There's broad regions where highways go through areas that are not populated at all. So if you drive through those areas, finding a place to recharge your vehicle won't be easy.
Yeah.
So I think the future is more in big cities to create that infrastructure.
Yeah, that seems a lot more reasonable when you think, like you said, about infrastructure and the grid and the upgrades and all that would have to be in place to think about that amount of electricity and that amount of cars moving to that. And that brings me to actually my next question, and it gets back to what you guys are doing. What strategies do you have to ramp up production and processing of critical minerals as the world shifts away from fossil fuels towards cleaner technologies? So we talk about infrastructure. How about on your end? What do you guys have to get ready to ramp up?
Well, we're going to get started by producing the petalite mineral concentrates, because now there's a global shortage of that mineral as well. And most major glass ceramic companies are now desperate for a new supply source. And they know that Avalon has the only significant petalite resource in the world that China doesn't control now, after they took over control of the ones in Zimbabwe that had been the traditional supply sources. So we're in a good position to serve both the battery materials market and the glass ceramics market because of the quality of the mineralization in our resource. But we want to create that regional processing facility to encourage more producers of the lithium mineral concentrates to create additional supply for that processing facility. Unfortunately, it'll probably take 3 years or so to get it built and operational, but we've got the land picked out now in Thunder Bay, and it's an ideal site on the waterfront. We still have to close the deal on it, but it looks like it'll be a perfect location to create that facility and facilitate ready transportation to other places in Eastern North America where there's demand for the lithium hydroxide product.
Wow, that sounds like quite the project. And actually, that leads me into my next question, which is going to be, we're in February now, 2023, and obviously what you just laid out, I'm assuming, is a big part of what your plans are. But do you have any other primary plans for 2023 for the company? Kind of what's on the radar with such a huge project like that? What else can you guys work on, or is everything focused there on that project?
Well, actually, we have a deep drilling program underway there right now, because we never drill below a depth of 250 meters. And while the resource near surface is 11 million tons, we never found a bottom of it. So we'd like to see what sort of overall size potential the resource has before we decide on the scale of the operation. And that's the next step there. Plus, as I said before, we have a lot of interest now in the petalite product from specialty glass ceramic makers. And we need to produce trial quantities of the petalite product so they can try it out, make sure it's going to meet their requirements. So hopefully we'll get started on that this summer, actually.
I said in my opening that you guys are obviously, you trade on a couple different markets, and obviously everything you're talking about this unparalleled opportunity to develop mineral resources in a way that's environmentally sustainable. But let me ask you a little bit about the business side. Obviously, you guys are not you're not a non-for-profit. How is this economically lucrative to the company? Tell me a little bit about that side of the business.
Well, there's a global shortage of lithium carbonate and hydroxide now, so prices have gone right through the roof. And because there's a shortage of the petalite product too, for specialty glass ceramic products, that is in very high demand now too. And we're seeing very high prices, much higher than they used to be for that product as well. So while there's still a shortage of supply, the prices are going to stay relatively high. So it should be a very profitable business at the end of the day.
Wow, that's great. So let's talk a little bit as we close out to investors. First of all, let's talk about some goals and some vision for Avalon. And then maybe we'll close with kind of talking to that investor, some of the primary reasons someone would consider investing in Avalon Advanced Materials. So let's take the first part first. Let's talk about some goals and some vision for Avalon as you see it from where you sit. And then let's talk to investors about maybe what the primary reason is that they would consider investing in Avalon Advanced Materials.
Well, we have been a diversified player in this whole new world of non-traditional critical minerals commodities. And most investors in the US remember us from our days of trying to get the first rare earth elements supply chain started in North America. But to this day, I'm sure that China saw us coming and blocked us from getting started by relaxing the export quotas they had imposed on Japan and Korea. But that's another opportunity we have. We brought in an Australian partner to get the ball rolling for us there by producing some of the rare earths from the near surface resources there. And our resource is a fairly unique one below 150 meters, and it's highly enriched in the heavy rare earths. And that will make it another good opportunity to take advantage of them getting the whole ball rolling for us to come in behind them and create another supply chain on rare earth elements. And we've inspired the Saskatchewan Research Council in Saskatoon to create the rare earth separation capacity there. And they've also started to create the magnet metals processing capacity there too. So this is inspiring for us to basically come in behind our Australian partners and develop the original resource that we discovered there way back over 12 years ago.
Wow, it's fascinating stuff. Really interesting. We've been speaking with Donald Bubar, again, a revered geologist, 45 years of experience in mineral exploration and development. He's the CEO of Avalon Advanced Materials, Inc. Again, the trades on the TSX under the symbol AVL and on the OTCQB under AVLNF. Don, just in closing, where can investors go to get more information on you, more information on the company, and more information if they want to be, if they're interested in maybe investing in Avalon? Where's the best place for them to go?
Well, you can obviously check our website, but we've been collaborating with a group in the UK called the Innovation News Network. And I've been a fan of what they're doing because it's all about innovation of new ways to process these non-traditional commodities and develop the innovative applications for them. That never happened in Canada in the past, but finally it's going to get started here. And basically just communicating that it's all about innovation with these non-traditional commodities is a key message. So I've been collaborating with them, and there's a lot of material now that we publish there on other non-traditional commodities and the opportunities that they represent. Because we have a unique resource that is enriched in other rare elements too, tantalum, cesium, and rubidium, that can create other business opportunities for us going forward. And we have other resources on other projects that also will give us more opportunities. And the reason we have this diversified asset base is because we realized early on that you can't predict when there'll be demand for one of these products. So having a diversified asset base would allow you to basically meet a new demand when it arises from new technology. So that was something we learned early on that inspired us to create a diversified asset base. But now they're all in demand, so it's good news for us going forward. And I think it's important for investors to understand that we're still a very undervalued lithium equity given our advanced status. And the reason is that because we did all the exploration work over 20 years ago, we haven't had a whole lot of news flow lately. on exploration drilling results. So a lot of investors rely on those early stage drilling results to guide their investment decisions. But we have the most advanced project, as you mentioned earlier on. And it's taken some time to basically secure access to the markets and find investing partners that we can collaborate with on this. But we've got quite a bit of interest now that will allow us to get the whole ball rolling here and then get the battery material supply chain started.
Well, this has been a fascinating conversation. We've been talking with the CEO of Avalon Advanced Materials, Inc. here on Spotlight Television, Donald Bubar. I want to thank you so much for joining us. We'll link all the information we can on Donald and Avalon Advanced Materials down below here in the video, so check it out. And I want to thank you again for joining us today on Spotlight Television.
Thank you for having me.
All right, folks, that's going to do it. Another great episode of Spotlight Television. I'm Damon Roberts. I want to thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time right here on Spotlight Television.